massive deal. Like, for him to flip his mind.
You love Lane Johnson.
For him to flip his mind.
That's your boy.
And play a different way. Like, okay, I can't turn the football over. I can't take sacks. I have to check the ball down. There's a 3rd and 7 in the fourth quarter where he checks to a screen and throws the ball 5 yards short of the first down marker. He would never do that normally. So I want to give him credit. I think there's enough people out there to just point out how much a person stinks. I want to give him credit for doing it in that moment. But for you to sit there and go like, oh, well, he was terrible, but then he flips. Like, we sit here all the time and talk about sports and go, well, Steph Curry was 0 for 10 in the first 3 quarters, but he kept shooting. That's the greatness
but
about
if I
him.
was just
like,
if I were merely saying, oh, so what? That would be one thing. But I'm pointing out the Giants' defense is a bad defense.
Correct.
And we're talking about overtime of a game. At that point, they're also
let me ask you a
gassed.
question. Let me ask you a question. Because, see, first of all, what I find utterly ridiculous about your comment is when you sit up there and say there's a throw here and there's a throw there and there's a throw there that was bad, when I don't know of any game where we can't look at a quarterback and say they underthrew, they overthrew. I mean, that happens to every quarterback in practically every game. I see Patrick Mahomes underthrow and overthrow, and we know how great he is. But I will go this route with you. Has Saquon Barkley regressed?
Regressed?
Yeah.
No, he's been hurt.
Of course not. Well, no. Not just that. He has no help.
That's true.
Whatsoever.
Sure.
You understand what I'm saying? So in other words, the fact that he's not 100% healthy, but even when he is, he has very, very little help. And that's why you lamented them losing Odell Beckham Jr. That's why you were so disgusted when they moved him, because you talked about how folks are going to stack the box and they're going to dare somebody else to beat them. Mm-hmm. And the guy's not playing with each other. So can you expect from him? My point to you would be, if that's the mentality, because those were your words, if that's the mentality, how come that can't be applicable to a quarterback?
2 things. 1, I'm not simply saying that every quarterback doesn't have bad throws. Carson Wentz is the only one. If you watched that game yesterday, you will see.
I did watch
being
the
honest
game.
about it, a lot of bad throws. And even the throws he was connecting on they were like slightly underthrown. He wasn't hitting guys on their steps. It was not a good game from Carson Wentz. Dan, you would not look at another guy if you didn't know Carson Wentz's whole story and say, boy, that guy had a good game. That's 1. And 2, in terms of help, yes, that affects his play negatively. Absolutely. The stuff is interconnected. I'm not denying that. But you can still isolate a guy. For example, Saquon, if he's never running north-south, right? You might say, hey, Saquon's dancing too much. That would be a legitimate criticism.
Kellerman, but you're the same person that highlights and points out chemistry, not just talent, but chemistry matters. If you're a guy that I can rely upon and I have something with, that goes a long way, as opposed to you working with somebody you don't know, trying to familiarize yourself with timing patterns and things of that nature. The fact is, in New England, we got a system quarterback there. As great as Tom Brady is, the system helps him. With Carson
Finally,
Wentz,
someone else admits it.
Excuse me. No, but that doesn't take away from his greatness as far as I'm concerned. Secondly, you have pointed out, Nick Foles was coached differently. Peterson runs an offense this way when Nick Foles is in the lineup. He runs an offense this way when Carson Wentz is in the offense. Okay, but Deshaun Jackson is not there. Alshon Jeffrey has been in and out. Nelson Aguilar has been in and out.
Those guys would make him better, yes.
All of them outside of Deshaun Jackson has spent the year dropping passes. They were top 3 and dropped passes.
They dropped some of the first half.
So all I'm saying is this. How do we ignore that when you don't use that argument with other people you like?
I'm not ignoring it.
Yes, you are. Max, how can you sit here
started by acknowledging
but how can you sit here and go like, when in the second half and overtime, he goes 17 to 24, he averages over 8 yards attempt and has the game-tying, game-winning touchdown. Like, how can you sit here?
Let me be very clear. Let me be very clear. He deserves credit for game-winning drive. Yes, it's better than not having the game-winning drive. The fact that it occurred against a bad defense in an overtime where at that point, the defense clearly went down in fourth quarter and overtime, not just with Wentz's play, they were tired.
But what you're missing about what I'm saying to you, see, you're looking at the argument that you're making and you're falling back because you think I'm challenging you on your argument. I am not. What I am saying is it's not consistent. In other words, you're sitting there and you're applying it to certain people and you're letting other people who do the same exact thing that find themselves themselves under similar conditions off the hook because you like them. I'm saying if the argument is what it is, it should be applicable to everybody. If Carson Wentz is devoid of the necessary weapons in order to be productive, then excuse me, I don't want to hear when Nick Foles looks like trash and you want to let him off the hook. I don't want to hear when Patrick Mahomes.
Nick Foles is as good a quarterback
being literal.
as Carson Wentz.
I'm just throwing his name out there. I'm saying it could be anybody. It could be Patrick Mahomes. It could be Deshaun Watson. It could be anybody. Your argument should be the same. If they're devoid of the weapons necessary,
let me explain
they're devoid of them.
I completely reject that I'm being inconsistent there. I will say this because, in fact, I was not as big a Carson Wentz guy as Dan, obviously, because as the evidence changes, so does my opinion. However, I don't have like a religious devotion to Carson Wentz. However, I was a Carson Wentz guy. I was arguing he's MVP over Tom Brady at the time. And all I'll say in terms of that when I like a guy as much as I liked Wentz, I'm paying close attention. So I may be hypercritical of him because I'm paying closer to attention to him. However, that's what you get. If Mahomes starts playing poorly, as poorly as Carson Wentz played this year, without Tyreek Hill and those guys, I'm still going to say,
no, you won't.
Yes,
no, you won't. No, you won't. We don't believe you. We don't believe you. We don't believe you.
Mahomes is my Wentz.
Max, let's be clear. Hold on, Max, let's be clear about what we say. We don't believe you. That's really what this comes down to because you cannot tell me that if Patrick Mahomes steps on a football field, but he doesn't have Tyreek Hill and he doesn't have Travis Kelce, that you are going to sit up there and judge him as if he would have them on the field. No, I don't believe it. You're lying.
Time out.
Go ahead.
For a game or two, you'd be right, because I have an opinion set of Mahomes based on the evidence so far. I think I know what I'm looking at when it comes to Mahomes. If he went through 12, 13, 14 games of a season, devoid, as you would say, of weapons, and played like Carson Wentz has played so far, I would make some excuse. At a certain point, I would say, okay, Mahomes ain't playing well. That hasn't happened.
Hold on. He just got slick. Because he said lesser weapons as if there's some level of consistency. I'm saying, what if they were here one game, down another, dropping past one game, making them another, running wrong routes one game, not running wrong routes the other. What I'm saying to you is that you would make sure to highlight and pick apart those things. But when it comes to somebody else, all of a sudden you just want to sit up there and write the epitaph. I'm like, going to let you do that. No. I'm saying, wait a minute, be consistent with that. That's all I'm saying.
I disagree. I would say this about Wentz. I know what you guys are getting at. You're saying,
we say you're lying.
No. You smell something.
We say you're lying.
I'm not lying, but you smell something. This is what I would say about Wentz.
That's what you're saying. We're not saying you smell something.
MVP through 13 weeks goes down. I thought they were toast. Right. They win the Super Bowl with Nick Foles, who's the Super Bowl MVP. Okay. The next year, they're going nowhere. Foles comes in. I saw offense, defense, and special teams juiced by Foles' presence. You heard
right now.
Out of that locker room the same thing, that they like Foles. They go on a run. They make the playoffs. They win a playoff game. I was looking this year for Carson Wentz's influence on the team. Yes. What I saw was a team that came out flat, offense, defense, and special teams. And addition to that, poor play by Carson Wentz.
And so yesterday happens. And you and I argued last week that you think one of the things missing with Carson Wentz is his ability to elevate people and his leadership skills. So how can you explain yesterday, at home, down 17-3, playing with guys he's never played with, team decimated with injuries, getting booed, that kid had the most impressive and needed win of his career? How do you explain that he's throwing passes to guys that haven't played before, he's never had reps with before? If you're going to sit there last week and say, my biggest concern with Carson Wentz is I've never seen him do this, and then on national television, he does it when every reason he would have to not do it was there. Okay. That was an impossible and improbable ask. And don't say it was because it was against the Giants. That's the same Giants team that Lambeau Field last week was in a one-score game late in the third quarter against the Packers. No.
A two-win team.
But you can't just go, well, they were playing the Giants.
A two-win team with their backup quarterback. Come on, guys. Okay, this is what I will say to you.
Don't call him.
Eli is the backup.
Wait. He's not just any backup
Molly, I'm debating Dan.
That's a valid point.
It's a two-win team with a 38-year-old backup quarterback.
That you're debating Dan, but you can be challenged by the moderator as well. You have that with your Columbia education.
Okay, I'm happy to debate you if you like. I will leave Dan alone for a second.
No,
You've been beat up enough.
It was just one comment. Go ahead.
I'm just curious. Yeah. Is he the backup? Yes or no? Is Eli the backup?
He is the backup, but he's not just any backup quarterback, and you know that.
But is he a backup quarterback?
Yes.
Okay.
No.
So
he's playing a backup role. He's not a backup quarterback.
Actually, by definition, Eli Manning is a backup quarterback. He wasn't hurt, and he was sitting on the bench because they play the starter.
Before you continue, I would like the record to show that you've never, in all your Giants fandom, you have never called Eli Manning a backup.
Because he wasn't backing up until now.
No. Until this morning.
Okay, wait. I just want to point out something to everyone.
Hall of Famer last week.
The question, right? He's a Hall of Famer. Now he's a backup.
How can you sit here and say the same things last week? The kid does the one thing that you point out.
I'm trying to address that.
Okay,
I'm trying to address that.
Give me your excuse.
Go ahead.
It's not an excuse. I give him credit for
Just
that.
answer the question.
If you ask me, does Wentz, do you see anything that you can take out of that that's a positive?